Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Necron Codex. Today we're moving on from special characters onto other HQs. We're going to start off with the Overlord. Quite an iconic unit, certainly what a lot of new Necron sort of players will see as their sort of standard HQ. So how this works is I'm going to speak about a wee bit about the stats and stuff you'd see in the Codex. Talk about the Wargear, special abilities, then I'm going to look at loadout suggestions for the actual Overlord, speak about sort of what weapons work best, which ones don't, I'll speak about artifacts of, the artifacts of the Aeons, which ones work out best, Dynasty codes, Warlord traits, and stratagems that may be useful as well. So with that, let's have a look at the Overlord. Let's start off with, straight off the bat, biggest weakness of the Overlord, movement 5. Now that may be only 1 inch less than most other units, but the fact that the Overlord does not have a reliable way to move closer and is a predominantly short-ranged monster in himself, and the stats are quite good, is troubling. Slow in a game that now actually does prefer speed is quite difficult. We do have other ways to gain mobility, but not really with Overlord itself. Tricky, but we'll go into that into different ways later on. But nonetheless, without having access to a jump pack or something, that is kind of difficult. Weapon skill and blitz skill 2+, makes them reliable to hit, which is absolutely awesome. Strength and toughness 5 makes you stronger and tougher than most other sort of standard smaller HQs, which is by far absolutely awesome in and of itself. You know, get above to toughness 5 really does help against things that swing hard, especially at strength 8, and smaller things that are just strength 4 are going to have a hard time scratching them. So yeah, that is pretty good. Wounds 5. Maybe wound 6 would have been nicer to make them a little bit more resilient, but still a good amount of wounds. 3 attacks, now I'm going to assume it's low because of their speed, but I would have really liked to see an Overlord to at least be 4 attacks, just making it that a little bit more choppy. I think, in fact, if I'm right, that more than anything, Illuminator Zaraz for some reason gets 4 attacks out of all the Necron characters. I think Wargear, Oberon, even Imitek doesn't get 4. Wargear and Illuminator Zaraz, a cryptic, does get 4. Just if they were just a wee bit more threatening with 4 attacks, you'd find that Necron characters would be a lot more scary, but I can only assume that was a conscious choice due to obviously them being a bit slower. They have a plethora of and leadership 10 and a 3+ save, which is kind of standard. I really like that to be a 2+ save, but it is what it is on that one. Overall stats not bad, just not being able to augment that 5 when the movement is a bit of a pain, but certainly high stats, especially that strength and toughness is pretty darn good. In terms of Wargear, I'll go into that maybe a little bit later on, but I'll go into that a little bit later on because I see a lot of goods and bads, but there's a lot of Wargear options there. I'll maybe go into them maybe a little bit more detail at the end, but I'll speak about what ones work and what ones don't. In terms of abilities, we have Living Metal, which helps you keep it alive a little bit longer by giving you a wound back if you've lost one at the start of every one of your turns. So that keeps you going, which is always handy. Resurrection Orb, you've got this option as well if you wish to take it. If this model has a Resurrection Orb, once per battle, immediately after you have made your reanimation protocols, roll at the beginning of your turn. You can make reanimation protocol rolls for models from a friendly Dynasty infantry unit within 3 inches of this model. So, you know, it's kind of good. You know, immediately after you made them, you can make a reanimation for models from a friendly Dynasty. So you only get it on 1 unit, and you pay points for it. I can't remember how many, if it got FAQ'd or not, or if it got, you know, it's I think expensive at 35. I don't think it's been reduced. Means on average you need to bring back at least 3 models from it, minimum. Kind of tricky on that one. Quite frankly, I would have liked them to just make them as a standard free, and you know, if you get 1 or 2 back, fine. 3, 4, 5, good. But you've already done reanimation this turn, so you might not get any back. really, quite frankly, because it's going to be less models you're rolling for. Nice to have. If you have a cryptic nearby to augment you, all the better, to make it more reliable. But spending 35 points on it may not be the best. You know, if it was every turn, oh boy, take it, buy it, excellent. But it's one off, so that's not really ideal. Phase Shifter, this model has 4 up invul, good invul save. I think 3+ may be a bit too much to ask for, but certainly better than 5. Means Plasma is going to have a harder time getting through to you, which is something we always hate. And My Will Be Done, at the beginning of your turn, choose a friendly Dynasty infantry unit within 6 inches of this model, add a 1 to advance charge hit rolls for the unit until the beginning of the next turn. The unit can only be chosen as target this ability once in each turn. My Will Be Done is super handy, always very good on Immortals and Tesla, just to make sure their Tesla abilities goes off in 5s, and then you can use other abilities to try and augment them further, which is always really good. I think Sutek have the +1 to it as well. And then there's like reroll ones with the Triarch Stalker. Yeah, there's plenty of ways to augment so you can get more and more dice shots and just drown your opponents in dice. Also helps for rapid fire, always very handy as well if you've got a 20-man blob of Necron Warriors. There's a good wee trick with that one with My Will Be Done, just to make them really damaging. So yeah, adding +1 to it is good, kind of awesome to have. Let's go into the Wargear now, or I call it loadout suggestions and rolls. Instead of saying, you know, what loadouts work out best, because really you only carry sort of one piece of equipment and an Resurrection Orb, which Resurrection Orb is really to your taste. It really depends if you want one or not. I more than not choose not to, but sometimes it can be good. I'm just going to list the stuff that, well, let's talk equipment. Unless it's relics, and I'll go into relics later, I'm simply going to list the stuff here. Firstly, that I think does not work, and I'll try and explain roughly why. Then I'll explain the pieces of equipment that do work and why they do. Simple as. So, Hyperphase Swords. Don't think it works. Why I don't think it works? Strength 6 is nice, which will go through most Toughness 3 stuff, which if you're struggling with is not ideal. You know, it's pretty okay in that one, but it's only 1 damage on 3 attacks, which is extremely lackluster. Maybe more attacks with this make it better, but 1 damage certainly lets it down. It is -3 AP, which is good, but generally you'll see through these equipment, we don't struggle to get through armor. There's plenty of ways to do it, but the lack of damage and the strength being in odd places is what hurts most. Void Blades, which is melee -3 AP and 1 damage. Each time the bearer fights, it can make 1 additional attack. So in terms of difference of Hyperphase Sword, where Hyperphase Sword did make it strength 6, this is going to stay at strength 5, but you're getting an extra attack. Still, 4 attacks at 1 damage is nothing to write home about. So again, I just find that a bit underwhelming. War Scythe, sure this can work. Melee +2 strength, bring you to strength 7, -4 AP and 2 damage. Now you can make this work, but personally if you're going to go down one of these bigger weapons, I would go with the Void Scythe. I'll speak about its advantages in a minute, what makes it better, but the important things to take away is the War Scythe does not bring you to that all important strength 8, which I can't stress is very important. It is quite a bit cheaper by 11 points than a Void Scythe, but if you do plan to be aggressive with a Necron Overlord, I would recommend just taking the Void Scythe. Speaking of which, let's speak about the stuff that is actually good. So the stuff that's good, there's not many of them, but there is 2, is the Staff of Light. So this is kind of good, cheap, and offers pretty good ranged and combat options. Staff of Light as a shooting weapon is range 12, so it's quite a short range. Assault 3, strength 5, -2 AP and 1 damage. In combat it's strength melee, so strength 5, -2 AP and 1 damage. Essentially it's, you know, 1 less AP than your Hyperphase Sword and your Void Blades, and 1 less strength or 1 less attack. But it gives you range capabilities which can be good. Being above strength 4 naturally is really good already. Being above, you'd want it to be, strength 7 or 8 for the tougher units. There's not many things that are like, toughness 6 as such. There is toughness 5 and 6 as such, but you're not getting to the big things, which is 7 or 8, even with the Void Blade. You know, that's not getting there. Only the Ward Scythe and the Void Scythe are getting there. So you're looking at these sort of smaller arms weapons where you really have the Staff of Light, the Void Blade, and the Hyperface sword. So you've really got to choose with an additional attack and an extra AP, an extra strength and an extra AP, or range capabilities with the Staff of Light. And quite frankly, I choose having the best of both worlds with the Staff of Light, being able to shoot a wee bit and then charge in and cause a wee bit of damage as well. But simply put, the other weapons at 1 damage does not make them worth in combat at all in my eyes. Staff of Light is good for a support character. That would be my go-to if you're not committed to going to combat. If you are committed to going to combat, I would simply go to Void Scythe. So this is the big daddy of the combat weapons, hits much harder than the rest of them. Essentially a Thunder Hammer. It hits with, I believe, an extra AP over a Thunder Hammer. I mean, I'm pretty sure Thunder Hammers hit at -3 AP. I play Chaos a lot rather than Loyalists. You know, I don't play any Loyalist ones, so I've only just got access to Thunder Hammer. Pretty sure it's -3 AP, don't think it's -4, but the Void Scythe is, which is really, really handy. The Void Scythe is melee weapon, ×2 strength, bring you to a mighty strength 10, -4 AP and 3 damage. When you attack with the weapon, it subtracts 1 from hit rolls. So why is that important? More than anything else, you know, the -1 to hit is not ideal, but ×2 strength and strength 5 is very important. This means you wound toughness 4 stuff, which there's prominence melt, on 2+, which War Scythes don't even get. They're wounding on 3s. You know, then you've got your toughness 7 and then you've got your toughness 8 stuff, which you're going to be wounding on 3s as well as putting a 3 damage on those things as well. Simply put, although you may not be as reliable to hit, your reliability to wound vastly increases at strength 10, which is very handy. You're also getting +1 damage. And then dealt, and I don't know if many people would recommend doing this, you can might well be done yourself to bring you back up to 2. I'm pretty sure you can. It's friendly Dynasty infantry units within 6 inches, and you are a friendly Dynasty infantry unit. So you can add 1 to your advanced charge and hit rolls, bring you back up to 2, get into combat more reliably, and get the Void Scythe into action, which is kind of useful. So simply put, if you're going to be supportive and sit in the back line, take Staff of Light. It's cheap, it's kind of handy. You want to get in combat, or maybe you want to be in the back line and think about getting in combat and protect a wee bit, a Void Scythe is what I would go with. Simply put as well, 3 attacks is a huge weakness. So next up we're going to go with the artifacts of the Aeons. I believe that's what they're called. Yeah, artifacts of the Aeons. So there's a couple here. To be brutally honest, and I covered this when it came to the Necron overview, the artifacts are not the best. There's a few I find that are okay, and then one that's very, very good and a very good go-to, but they are tricky to say the least. So let's start off with the important one, Veil of Darkness. Once per battle, at the end of any movement phase, the bearer can use the Veil of Darkness. When they do, the bearer and up to 1 friendly Dynasty infantry unit within 3 inches of the bearer are moved from the battlefield. Then set up the bearer and the second unit you choose, if any, anywhere in the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy models. The second unit must set up wholly within 6 inches of the bearer. So this is by far the most useful artifacts of the Aeons. Why is that? Well, one of Necron's issues is mobility, which, you know, this helps out significantly. Being able to redeploy the Overlord, and arguably more importantly another unit, opens up a whole bunch of options for you to play with. I mentioned, I think in the Oberon video, a way to deploy a whole host of units where I think you use the Deceiver to deploy him and D3 units, one of them being, you know, Oberon, one of them being Luminar Zares. Then you use Oberon to teleport a unit with him, so you get Oberon and over to Zares, which is quite good. And then you use maybe an Overlord or a Lord with the Nightmare Shroud to take another unit, giving you, you know, Catan, say 3 units if you roll well, Zarazan to be one of them, Oberon moves with them another unit, then the the Overlord, and then the unit with him. So that gives you 6 if you take the Nightmare, the Veil of Darkness, the Deceiver, Oberon, and Luminor not Luminor Zares. Oh my goodness, Nemesis Zandrek. You know, there's that trick you can pull off with, but simply just being able to deploy an Overlord in one unit can help, you know, just give you that mobility that you don't often see in the Necron forces. Certainly is my go-to one. I mean, like, it's helped me open up when I, you know, want to get that 20-man warrior squad in rapid fire range turn 1, because yes, you can use this turn 1 to essentially come off the field and deploy back down. With them, it's really, really handy. Or even Lich Guard unit that you want to charge with turn 1. Yep, you can redeploy with them and then move in, you know, which is kind of handy. Might well be done them and just be a good wee shock troop. That can help as well. Generally, you'll find the Veil of Darkness will always be useful at some point in the game. Next up, I'm going to say the Voltaic Staff. So the Voltaic Staff, just to go over some of its sort of abilities, is Mithrit only and replaces the Staff of Light. The Voltaic Staff in melee, we'll begin with, is just the Staff of Light. Strength user, -2 AP and 1 damage. Nothing exceptional there. When it does become a bit better is it's range 12, assault 3, strength 6, so higher strength, -3 AP, so higher AP, and 2 damage. Each time you make a wound roll of 6 for this weapon in the shooting phase, the target suffers a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So this in melee is just your basic Staff of Light, but shooting it really becomes very good, sorta. Adding a strength, AP and damage, mortal wound, all pretty good. Add on the Mithrit range at half range, could actually make it, you know, -4 AP. You need to be within 6 inches to achieve that. Maybe asking a lot to do that, but add on the Mithrit Warlord trait, Merciless Tyrant, which allows assault weapons an extra 6 inches to their range, which works here, bring you to range 18, and you can target characters. So range 18, this something becomes really something to think about. You know, support characters are going to get a nasty surprise when you suddenly, you know, shoot a Staff of Light at them, and it's -3 AP, 2 damage with 6s, causing mortal wounds in addition. Might fry a support character, however to do that you need to give up both a relic and a Warlord trait, and that might be a little bit of a big ass. Next up, let's go into Dynasty codes. So I feel Dynasty codes benefit more the army as a whole than the individual Necron HQs themselves. There are a fair few that do benefit the HQs themselves, but overall I think when you look at Dynasty codes, I'm going to be looking at units in the army and which ones get a lot more out of them, which there are a few. So we're going to start off with Novak, Awakened by Murder. You can re-roll failed hit rolls in the fight phase for units with this code if they charge, were charged, or performed a heroic intervention. My go-to playstyle, this simply is really good overall. Maybe not the best with an Overlord because you're already hitting on 2+, so you're only re-rolling 1s on 3 attacks. But if you're hitting with a Void Scythe, then every bit helps. You do not get to re-roll the 2s with the Void Scythe because, well, such is life, you know, it's only failed hits, but still, really good trait. I absolutely love Novak. Don't really mind on the Overlord as such, but the units themselves, certain ones are absolutely fantastic with them. Then we have Nefriker. I know Novak so well, but Nefrik, Translocation Beams. If unit with this code advances, add 6 to its move characteristic for that movement phase instead of rolling a dice. If the unit is affected by My Will Be Done or Wave Command ability, add 7 to its move characteristic instead. In addition, if a unit with this code advances, its models can move across models and terrain as if it was not there. I'm not really a fan of this one, but it is the next one that I find that's beneficial to an Overlord as such. Basically, advancing reduces shooting and you can't charge. That is quite a big ask. It really takes away momentum. However, it does make Necrons hugely mobile on average. If you just advance forward, you're going to be moving about 11 inches with them. Does mean they're highly mobile. You need to play smart to make this really work to your advantage. I think it could have done with maybe say that, you know, with this one, you know, you can, I would personally have put, you know, roll 2d6, choose the highest, and when they do advance you get a 5 up invul to represent that, you know, the translocation means they are going a bit harder to hit. That would have made it a little bit more advantage, but you can control as much of the board as you want. but if you can't shoot and charge, you might be in trouble next turn from your opponent. Still, really handy traits. I think it works quite well for the Overlord to get him where he needs to be. Warlord traits, and I think this is where Necrons work a bit more in their strength. There's quite a few of them that work quite well for the Overlords. Let's start with Enduring Will. Reduce any damage inflicted on your Warlord by 1 to a minimum of 1. For example, if your Warlord fails a saving throw against an attack that inflicts 3 damage, they'll only lose 2 wounds. If you play an aggressive combat Overlord, this will be very helpful. Thunderhammers will think twice if they're only wounding on a 3+, unless they're like Blood Angels or Strength 10 or something. And you have a good invul save. You have a good invul save that might stop them. And then if that Thunderhammer only does 2 damage, then you're going to keep your survivability up quite high. And reducing 2 damage to 1 is even more hilarity because your opponent will be very, very frustrated. Next up we have Immortal Pride. Friendly Dynasty units automatically pass morale tests whilst they're within 6 inches of your Warlord. In addition, your Warlord can attempt to deny 1 psychic power in each enemy psychic phase in the same manner as a Psyker. My go-to Warlord trait, quite frankly, bar none, being able to stop morale is awesome, which seems odd for a leadership 10 army. I mean, you've already got a great leadership. But we do favour large units to get the most out of reanimation protocol. Even if one Necron model, is alive, reanimation can be extremely powerful, and you don't want to spend command points to go, well, you've wiped out enough that I'm going to fill morale automatically. I have to spend command points to activate reanimation. With this, keep them close, and your opponent will have to wipe them out to a man, otherwise you will reanimate, and that can be awesome. If you take 20 Necron Warrior Blobs, this is certainly a must. But, just about any force, maybe, except for maybe low units or vehicle heavy Necrons, or maybe even, ones that are extremely fast that are just going to outrange you, your Warlords, then yeah, they may not do ideal for this, but overall, I find it just really, really handy. And adding in the Psychic Defense, which I think there's only 2 in the Force, just a cherry on top. Generally, this is a really good trait, and the one I go to more than anything. Implacable Conqueror, you can reroll failed charge rolls for friendly Dynasty units while they are within 6 inches of your Warlord. Again, a super useful one, depending on your playstyle. I play Novak a lot, so reliable rerolls to charge is good, though you may end up using command points just to reroll one of the dice. You get a 6 and a 1, you're just going to want to reroll that 1, as opposed to this forces you to reroll both. Depends on your playing style, but again can be really good. Next up we're going to go to the specifics, so Hyperlogical Strategist, Sutek only. Once per battle you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll or damage roll made for your Warlord. In addition, if your army is Battleforged and your Warlord is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you spend a command point, and on a 5+, that command point is immediately refunded. People really like this one, and getting command points is nice. The danger of it, and depending on your play style, it can sometimes not be a huge advantage. I personally on average only have 4 to 5 command points to play with when I play Necrons. Troops are expensive and HQs are tough and expensive. Simply put, we do not have a reliable way to get command points easily, except for maybe playing small immortal squads and some cheap HQs. But I prefer to take sort of elite, hard hitting, hard to bring down units, which means I'm quite honestly stripped of command points. It makes it kind of difficult in that one when I've got such low command points. If I'm going to get them back on a 5+, it means on average I'm only going to get 1, maybe 2 back. If your rolls are bad, you might not get any back, which is a huge disadvantage. I prefer a more immediate effect rather than a plausible one, but I know some people who definitely prefer this trait more than any other ones. Crimson Haze, Novak. Each time you roll an unmodified hit roll of 6 in the fight phase for a model in a friendly, hit roll in the fight phase for a model in a friendly Novak unit that is within 6 inches of your Warlord, you can make 1 additional hit roll for that model with the same weapon against the same target. These additional hit rolls cannot themselves generate further hit rolls. So we almost got Death to the False Emperor, almost. The unmodified hit rolls is both a curse and a blessing with access to my will be done. It would be nice if it was modified, you know, so that it would activate in 5s. But I suppose if your opponent has, you know, debuffs as well, then yeah, it's kind of okay for it to be unmodified. But we've got access to +1 to hit, so would have been nice. If you play combat Necrons, then yeah, this is nice. Bit tricky with things like Race and Scabs as they will outrun you. But Lich Guard, etc., you can keep up them buff, which is pretty nice. The only thing I'd say is that it only benefits models, not units. You can't stretch it out, and that's a common mistake for this trait. And certainly if you have like 4 of the models within range, and then you have say 6 that are not, that's going to be quite tedious. I would have preferred if it was if a unit is affected by it, but it's only models. I guess they thought this might have been a little bit too strong, which I would argue is good, but not completely too strong. Stratagem recommendations. Stratagems are a tricky one for Necrons because they're widely spread out between all the units, but there are a few that can benefit Overlords. The main one that's probably a bit, you know, best more anything is the Pharaoh's Will. Spoke about many times. 1 command point, use a stratagem after an Overlord from your army has used their My Will Be Done or wave of commands. This model can immediately use that ability for a second time. Probably the most useful ability on Overlord. As predominantly buff characters, you're going to find that you're going to be buffing and shooting on either rapid fire weapons, which is awesome, or through Tesla to activate Immortals in 5+, which is very good as well. Works in combat as well, so you want to buff Lich Guard, 2+ it with them, all very good, just depends on your composition. If you've got multiple units that could do with it, activate away. Resurrection Protocols, 1 command point, use this stratagem when Necron characters from your army, excluding Transient Infinite and Catan Shards, are slain. At the end of the phase, roll a d6, on a 4+, set that character up again as close as possible to the previous position, and 1 inch away from any models with 1 wound remaining. This stratagem can be used to resurrect the same model from the battle more than once per battle. Interesting stratagem, you know, if you die, then you know you can come back, and if you're a combat monster, then yeah, quite good. Quite frankly, if you die at the end of your opponent's turn and then come back, again, My Will Be Done alone is going to be very good. Whether it's worth spending command point at a risky stage not to come back reliably is difficult. I once, I think, elected not to do this in a battle report, and I rolled hypothetically and I failed to reanimate. Then I re-rolled it to see if I'd stick another command point in and failed again. So that unreliability does make me a wee bit wary of this one. But nonetheless, there may be situations where you need to bring the Overlord back, or at least have a chance for it. The other thing as well is that it will not stop the Warlord. If you have died and you're the Warlord, your opponent immediately achieves it as you have been slain, though you may come back. I think GW actually did a video on that where it happened in their battle report and they said nope, you get the victory point, they were slain, it doesn't matter that they actually came back. Entropic Strike, 1 command point, use a stratagem in the fight phase before a Necron character from your army fights. Invul saves cannot be taken against the first close combat attack made by this character this phase. This can be useful when using things that hit hard, so the Void Scythe can be good, but still with the hit roll being 1 in 3 chances to miss, and then next you might not even wound, avoiding invuls is good, but on 1 attack is simply just unreliable. Maybe on a higher damage, like say if you're like d6 damage and you're going for the big gamble damage, but most things, you know, damage through your lords is still quite tough. So that's my view on the Overlord. I feel my conclusion is going to be the strongest part here because there's a couple of things I want to mention here. One is that I think they're generally quite good character. They're tough to bring down, they may be slow, but if you are planning to buff units, slower units such as Necron Warriors, Immortals, Lich Guard to move along with them, yeah, not bad, pretty good on that side as well. I would have loved some way, and I think that's going to be a huge ask, though we do have the Catacomb Command Barge and Destroyer Lord to get more mobility. But that's the Overlord's role, is to sort of be slow moving. The other thing as well is that I think that the weapons need to be rethought. There needs to be one of these that actually works to sort of give more than just one additional attack. Say if it was to give, Strength user, -2 AP, 1 damage, but you make 3 additional attacks. A bit like, you know, a pair of Malefic Talons. That would be really good to give you weight of dice. Would be really good. And also, if you're going to be a slow Overlord, I would love to have more ranged weapons. I know Overlords and lore-wise, Staff of Light, and then they like to do things in combat, but something that's like a 24-inch weapon, you know, would be awesome. It would really give them, you know, a ranged support option, or just, you know, something to augment their attacks but not be as deadly. It would also be good, even at 1 damage, but -2 AP strength user. But you know, that would be really, really handy. So that's my thoughts on the Overlords. I'm really intrigued to hear what people think. I mean, I know there's a lot of criticism of the Necron HQs in general. I do like my Will Be Done, and they're just generally tough units. They don't often go down when I play games with them, but they also don't achieve too much either, which isn't a problem in itself. Also check us out on social media, where you get to see a bunch of our projects that we are working on, and check us out on Patreon, where you can help support the channel to bring you more content, because we absolutely love doing so. So thanks again, and we'll see you on our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.